Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Public Allies. Today, I'm your moderator, Ayesha Sardar, and we are going to be on the roundtable to create awareness on autism. It is a very important topic in our lives, so I have a disclaimer before we start. The views, thoughts, and opinions that are expressed during this discussion are meant solely to create awareness and improve the understanding about autism. All information provided or published is for informational purpose only. Reference to any treatment or therapy options or to any program services or treatment provider is not an endorsement by Public Allies and is the choice of the viewers. Languages, as you know, we are not experts in autism, and often politically correct terminology does require some time to learn. We will, although, try to use the words and phrases which will be respectful. And if unintentionally we say something, we apologize in advance. Family members are often the primary caregivers for persons with autism, and this responsibility may impact on caregivers' well-being, quality of life, and family members who are supporting an autistic relative often report difficulties such as higher levels of worry, depression, anxiety, and also it becomes that is the reason why today we have this roundtable on autism awareness. We have brought in our experts who can share with you how you need to be respectful about every individual and how you can support these families by supporting the caregivers and actually persons with ASD. Today we have three experts here, or I should say speakers. I will go in the alphabetical order. We have Krishna Mahathi. She's a pediatrician with special interest in developmental challenges. While training in developmental pediatrics and neurology in several esteemed institutions in India, she had the opportunity to observe therapy and treatment sessions closely. Krishna decided that children benefit more from an enriching environment and therefore proceeded to learn expressive art therapy, child psychology, and curriculum development for unique children. Her wish someday to have a neuroscience-backed inclusion and yet individualized curriculum for children that makes parents feel supported and secure. Her purpose is to be more meaningful while working with children on autism spectrum, in particular, because they often need more understanding and patience. Her own life challenges made sense while interacting with high functioning girls on the spectrum, and her experience as a parent made her realize that a healthy, dependable bond with parents is the foundation for all learning and resilience. She is now training as a parent coach and consulting on the Relationship Development Intervention Program for Autism, along with her clinical practice. Welcome, Krishna.
Hi, Ayesha. Thank you
Next,
for inviting.
yeah, well, again, thanks for coming. Then we have Michael Cnudde. Sorry, Michael, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, please correct me. Michael is an autistic self-advocate. He's specialist communications and resource development with Autism Ontario, the province's leading source of information and referral on autism and one of the largest collective voices representing the autism community. Since his diagnosis of high functioning autism in his mid 50s, Michael has worked to understand its role in his life and to advocate on his own behalf and of others on the spectrum. He holds an honors BA in communications from the University of Ottawa, a diploma in journalism from Sheridan College, and a BA from the University of Windsor. Welcome, Michael. Next, we have, last but not the least, Michele Finney. She's graduated from Seneca with a diploma in social service worker program, worked for Footprints for Autism for 9 years in various roles within the organization. Her role included program consultant, but with the increase of volunteers, her role developed into volunteer consultant. With this role, she has made sure that the volunteers are trained in both crisis intervention and first aid. Welcome, Michele. Anybody wants to add anything to their CV, please go ahead. If I missed something, please add whatever you want.
Can I just add, though, it's especially auspicious this evening that we begin in the week that the federal government of Canada did announce the beginnings of a national autism strategy in the federal budget.
Yeah.
So so that is helpful. It's a start. So anybody watching tonight in Canada, I recommend that you push your member of parliament, no matter who they are, because it's something we need to have happen. So
yeah, absolutely.
So yes.
So it's a great win for all of us in Canada. Yes.
It's a win for sure.
Yes. And we hope the other countries follow. Okay, so let's start the roundtable with the question. As we have so many international viewers and words like autism are not always used, can you tell our audience what autism is and how it may present itself? Does it present differently depending on the gender? So, Krishna, you want to start?
Okay. Clinically, we call autism a condition where social interaction is difficult primarily. Reciprocal social interaction. We don't say that people with autism cannot communicate. It's only when it goes back and forth that it becomes difficult. And it comes with a certain sensitivity to the environment, which manifests in certain repetitive behaviors. So it's basically a difficulty in adapting. Some parts of life, like, an event happens, how much you learn from it is different and difficult to an autistic individual compared to a neurotypical person. And so this affects their emotional regulation because of this struggle. So if you ask me, I think autism is a spectrum of conditions which makes this back and forth communication difficult because of the way the brain is differently wired. And there is a difficulty with emotional regulation and also with memory, with a memory of an event and what really you have to take from the environment at a certain point in time.
Okay, that's wonderful. Michael, your take. You're on mute.
I'm still muted. I always have problems with that. I think you had a lot of very valid points there. It is very much something existing on a spectrum, which is why you have the old saying, once you meet one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's genetic. So it's not something and you're right, it's very much regarding sensory inputs, regarding how people respond to those inputs as well. It's genetic. It's not a couple of things. It's not contagious. It's not a mental health issue. It will not go away, and nor can you be cured of autism. It's not caused by vaccines or either that because your mom doesn't love you. And it's not a reflection upon you or your family as you as a human being. This is something that my own experience of my father, he had a hard time when I was diagnosed, he had a hard time with that. And I had to tell him, listen, this is not your fault, and I think many people in the anti-vax movement probably who believe vaccines cause autism, I think deep down are having that same issue, that they're somehow blaming themselves for this. So, but so thank you.
Thanks for that, Michael. Michele, you want to go?
I would say they both hit the nail on a lot of great points. It's kind of hard to kind of develop on that, but first of all, I kind of want to thank Michael for being on this panel, because like I think it's amazing that you're such an advocate for autism. But like both of you guys mentioned, that it's a lifelong condition. You know, people who are diagnosed with autism have to have it for the rest of their life. You know, it affects all walks of life for them, whether it's, you know, in the school system, in the job system, you know, with family and friends. So, you know, like it's a condition that they have to live with, and it affects, you know, their behaviors, how they interact with people, how they learn. It could affect their emotions. And, you know, it's one thing when you guys mentioned is that it affects, like, it, not one size fits all. So, you know, you come across someone who has autism who's nonverbal, and you come across someone who's like super high functioning that, you know what, you can never tell they have autism, right? They mention it. So I think, to be honest, they're beautiful human beings, because there's so much that you can actually learn from them. And it's something that they're also learning themselves. So I think it's an incredible thing, an incredible journey for anyone that's actually on this journey, learning about these individuals.
Yeah. That's wonderful, Michele. Again, you summarized it for me and for all of us here. Like Krishna said, it's like persons with autism are very sensitive, and it is a very broad category, like all of you said. They have repetitive behaviors, nonverbal communication, and the social skills particularly may be a little lacking. But then all of us might, you know, you never know who gets diagnosed with ASD. Like Michael here, he was diagnosed late in like in the 50s, right? He didn't know until then. Although he last time when I met him, he said he kind of thought he had it at one point, or so it happens to all of us. So I would say you can't, there isn't a identification, a facial identification or a tool which they have which tells you that, you know, these are persons of autism. So you just have to be sensitive towards them, like you are sensitive towards yourself. These days we always tell you to be kind to yourself. So be kind to yourself and kind to others. That is all we are asking here, isn't it? For everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's go ahead to our next question. Michael, this one we start with you. In what ways are people on autism spectrum still being stigmatized, and what sort of progress has been made?
Well, you know, I go back to the 1950s, like the way back the beginnings of, I'm old enough to be in that group, that first group, where autism was blamed on the mother. Back in the 50s, there was a gentleman called Leo Kenner, psychologist, and he had something called the refrigerator mother. And it was called, and autism was viewed at the time as a form of childhood schizophrenia. And basically because your mother didn't love you enough, you were this way. And I can't think of how many mothers and children were stigmatized by that very cruel, heartless approach. It was simply, you know, a very, very, very mechanical, very one size fits all, and very wrong approach. Fortunately, we've grown out of that. We've matured. You know, now we've got other things in the media that we're stigmatized and stereotypized by. We have Rain Man, of course, we're idiot savants, all or nothing, it seems, right? The Good Doctor, it's a TV series. We have a, you know, and it seems it's either all or nothing. We don't yet have a realistic depiction of an autistic character in the media. It's either we're this or all that. So we're still dealing with that. Unfortunately, recently we've had some incident in news where we did have an individual who did a rather horrific the van attack, and I won't mention the name. But he tried to get it, and he was diagnosed with autism as well, high functioning autism, and he tried to do his get out with his criminal defense on that. The fact is that criminal defense, the whole trial did push back a lot of the good work that has been done for folks on the spectrum. And it left the door open, although he was found guilty, and rightly so. There's now a possibility within the criminal code of where a person could get off with a defense of autism as a non-criminally responsible. And that to myself, that is very scary. That is that could stigma. That would do a lot of good work that needs to be out, that's still being done out there by organizations such as Autism Ontario and Footprints and your own Ayesha and others out there, countless others out there. And I know I've spoken with parents who are afraid. We're afraid of this sort of thing, that this might affect their families and how, for example, their children might be able to get jobs or not.
Yeah.
So there is that real sort of thing out there that, you know, all it takes is one kind of bad incident like that to undo it all. So, you know, it's there's some good, but there's been a lot of good happening, but there's also been some bad too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Agree, Michael. Agree with everything that you just said. And instead of coming out and eradicating that stigma, we are like bringing in another kind of stigma that you have to be scared. You can get away. In fact, you know, it is becoming like a cover. Mental health issues and autism and all the other things are becoming like the cover to these people who are who might be or might not be the criminals, who might have it or might not have it, to just get away from punishments, right? So that is another topic entirely for another day.
Exactly. I mean, there's none of the people on the spectrum do have comorbid mental health issues such as depression and anxiety.
Yes, they do have
those things. But I think what bothers and scares a lot of the people on the spectrum is that autism itself might be used as a defense for non-criminal, trying to get non-criminal responsibility.
Yes.
And that's what scares a lot of people right now on the spectrum, until another ruling comes down which says it changes that.
And we will win that ruling too, Michael, like we did today. So let's have our hopes up. Michele, what do you want to say about stigmatization?
I think it has a lot to do with two things, and it would have to be denial and lack of education. The reason why I say denial is that back in 2004, when Footprints was surveying the community to see who would actually benefit from our respite program, a lot of families didn't want to come forward and admit that their child had autism to benefit from our program. So a lot of parents and a lot of families had that, you know, like that super parent where, you know what, I don't need the help. I'm fine. My child's fine. He or she doesn't have autism. So I find like a lot of families are in that denial phase where they don't want to admit that their child has autism. So with that being said, it's because a lot of stigma that's placed on it. You know, something's wrong with my child. My child is not normal. But we need to normalize the fact that, you know what, not all children are going to grow up being quote unquote normal, you know? So, and another thing I would say when it comes to lack of education, and what I tell my volunteers when I ask them, is that when you go into a restaurant or store and you see a child react in a sense where they have a tantrum or they throw themselves on the floor because they don't get their way, what's your automatic response? Is it the child is being spoiled, or do they have autism or have some sort of it? And they're reacting to something that, you know what, that's not agreeing with them. Maybe the lights are too bright. Maybe it's too noisy. And that's how I teach my volunteers, is the fact that, you know what, you need to have a different perspective when it comes to children. In a sense, when you see a child have a tantrum, don't think about the parent, you know, not doing their job, but think of it in a way where it's like, okay, what's affecting them? You know, is it the surroundings? Like, is it something that, you know, we could do and help out? So I think a lot of it has to do with both being in denial and lack of education. But with both, actually, if people start denying it and actually educate themselves a little bit more, I think the stigma will slowly start to go away.
I completely agree with you, Michele. And, you know, I come from a South Asian country, and autism there is an unknown thing. Still, in this day and age, it's an unknown thing. And how are they going to treat it when they don't know about it? Right? So the lack of awareness, the lack of education also leads to that. And we have a mother of a autistic child here, Krishna. And Krishna, who else to tell us better than what stigma do you face around it? How do people react to it? And do you think it's getting better, or what is your take on it?
So, people assume things about autism, as in if you're not talking, they assume that you're not capable of a lot of thinking and capable to have ideas of your own. And if you are the so-called high functioning group like my child and I are, we get this label of, you just don't need help. So this journey with my daughter made my whole life stories, everything fell in place because I had been treated for mental health issues, but I didn't know why they happened. Why I got this exhaustion at times in my life. So even now when I practice, if I bring up my own example, they're like, you're so fine. And you probably got this because you love your daughter and your work so much. So I'm like, why would I want to get it? The only thing I'm sharing this with you is because my life makes meaning to me. And we only want to share our diagnosis to help people understand that you can achieve what you set out to do. It's not for, like Michael said, getting away with something or getting advertised for something. We're not telling you that autism is cool. We have our struggles. Yeah. But the more you appear typical, your struggle is minimized, and the more you appear really autistic, your intelligence is not accepted, your potential is not accepted. So that, I think, is the sad situation we have today.
Yeah, agreed, Krishna. And kudos to you for standing up and fighting that and bringing in and developing different therapies. Or you also say that there are different therapies for different people and different ways of treating it or dealing with it. So I was wonderfully thrilled to meet you and talk to you about it, and that's why I wanted you on the roundtable. So it's been wonderful knowing you. But the one thing I want to add here is stigma also is born out of culture. Like, in Canada, it could look different. In Australia, it could look different. In India, it's very different. In Japan, US, everywhere. Depending on where you live, the stigma could also be different. It could be like self-stigma, it could be public stigma, it could be stigma through association or structural stigma itself, right? And like I told earlier, you don't have an identifiable physical or a facial characteristic to it. So when when there is a behavior, it is mistaken again as terrible parenting, dangerous, or lack of self-control or mental illness, and then it increases the stigma. So it is very important to create awareness, educate people, and tell them that it is different. It is not bad parenting, it is not mental illness, it is autism, and it's different, right? So thank you so much, all of you, for your answers. We move ahead. So what are some of the challenges that you see individuals face with ASD? Michele, you want to go first?
Yeah, for sure. It kind of touches on what Michael brought up today about the government and the funding. You bump into a lot of parents, obviously, because you run a respite program for our parents to get that break. But when it comes to funding and when it comes to education, and when it comes to like programs designated for children with autism, it's hard to find. And especially once who are in the teenagers and adult world. So we do have a teen program for teens who've been diagnosed from teenagers 13 to 21. But can you count how many programs are out there for teenagers who are diagnosed with like ASD, or how many not funded, but like free programs for teenagers or free programs for even children. So for like the struggles when it comes to that, I would think it would be a lot to do with government funding and education towards ASD.
Yeah, agree. Michael, what do you think? What are the challenges? You're mute again.
Muted again. I got the unmuted button going. The master this thing before the night is out, let me tell you. Well, we looked at actually Autism Awareness. We looked at the top five challenges facing caregivers and autistic families a couple of years ago. And we found them, education was talked about the number one number one challenge, as finding programs, finding things that were tailored to the child. Second was the long wait lists. I think, Michele, you might and Ayesha, you might agree with me on these things. Right now in Ontario, we have upwards of 24,000 children on wait lists for access into the Ontario Autism Program. And those are the province's own numbers. Financial hardship, over 50% of caregivers of autistic children and over 50% of autistic adults pointed out when they were asked, financial hardship is one of their biggest concerns. So that means whether, whether it's either a job later on for a person on the spectrum, or whether it's simply the cost of caring for a lower functioning autistic child. I mean, in one thing, I mean, there was one study out of the University of Calgary, which put for the life cost over a lifespan of caregiver costs alone for a lower functioning autistic child, a person over the cost of a lifespan to be on the order of $5 million.
Wow.
So that is something. And so it's not even somebody who is relatively well off, like under Canadian circumstances, can really afford. And the other thing, and the other two concerns were school transitions from high school to the post-secondary realm, either when they go on to school or they get some kind of employment or placement after high school. And adult concerns, once again, we're talking about, because as you alluded to, Michele, once a person goes past the age of 18 in Ontario, at least, it's like they step into a black hole. There's nothing out there for them. Programs don't really exist for them. And it's like needs aren't met. There's poor treatment options, and there's employment and housing are also situations many people are adults on the spectrum are concerned about. So
all those topics have I was actually thinking about it when I asked you the question, like, housekeeping, that is so important, finances, emotional and mental state of the parents, and then it also affects relationships, like with siblings, and parents are more dedicated sometimes towards the child with autism, and then they are not so connected with the other children in the family, or they're led to mend for themselves, or take care of themselves. So poor sibling relationships, and then relationships with the extended family. People don't want to come, or you don't want to go because the social skills are not there, or again, social stigma around it. So I agree with you, Michael, completely. Krishna, what do you think are the challenges?
I think you all have summed it up very well. Everything of it is true. People still think this is an early childhood condition, and nothing goes beyond early intervention. They think that they are helping individuals on the spectrum, but they do not understand how much of effort the persons on the spectrum actually take up every single day to, navigate this world. So I think, and families, like you said, parents, when they spend so much of their resources on the child or on the member of the family who has autism, their own needs are not prioritized. So for a family to have autism and live a life of dignity is a challenge today.
Yeah, agree. With the finances and with so much cost, like Michael was saying, upwards of 5 million, Michael, that's what you were saying. So so how do they take care of all the other things, all the other finances? They get into debts, they don't know how to get out of it.
Well, frequently what happens in these circumstances, people take second jobs, or they sell houses or cars or possessions, or they go into debt. You're right. And that does take a toll on the families and the caregivers and relationships. And it leads to a lot of things like resentment, like you're saying, and it's a hard road. And and I've seen some, but the good news is I've seen a lot of families with autistic children pull together and really do it and do it well. And so, you know, it can be done.
Yeah. And another point that you very rightly said was, Michael, once they pass the teens and then they get into become adults, they're in the black hole, right? So I feel if the government, if your hands are full, if you don't have the resources, like organizations like yourself, Autism Ontario, Footprints for Autism, they can be brought in to provide that programming which is necessary for the adults who have ASD, right? So I feel that having collaborations, having partners, it's only going to help make things better for everyone. Um, you can't do everything alone. So you need those partners. Yes, let's get to the next one. Well, we can keep talking all day about these topics. So I don't know. I feel very strongly for these topics, and this was one of the reasons why Public Allies is called Public Allies, because we really want to become allies of the public, and we want to provide them with the education, awareness, and where are the resources available and who can help them. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here again.
No problem. But in my view, though, if I might say, Ayesha, the only reason we're going to get anywhere, say, for proper funding for adult programs, is if we reach out to the government and make the province and make them see that.
Yes.
Footprints, we can do that. Autism Ontario, we do programs, some programs. Michele, you do some programs, but you know, we can only go so far on our own with the donations that we get. We have to make the government sit down, and maybe that'll come out of the this national autism loop strategy they're working on. I hope it does. But right now, there needs to be something out there for people when they transition into adulthood, and it's just not there, and it's not fair to them. It's not fair to their families.
Right, and I think what's nice too is that like the team program that we do have is that they get to socialize. They get to see their team.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And together, like it's in Durham, but a lot of them do get together and realize, oh, there's someone that's like me. You know what I mean? So we're a small organization in Durham. Can you imagine if we had like team programs in like Toronto wide for like, you know, teens who've been diagnosed with autism? I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah, like you have networking programs for businesses, right? Why not have networking program for teens with ASD? That'll be so wonderful, isn't it? Now that's one program, you can write it down and we are going to do it. Okay, no, I want to clarify, Michael, when I say the government has to collaborate with organizations like yourself and Footprints, I mean with funding.
Right.
Where are you going to get the funding from? The government, because it can't do everything and it can't create programs. It can provide you with the funding, and you can provide the people with the programs and services.
Or they can do it through the Ontario as an evolved Ontario autism program as well.
Absolutely.
You know, we can do that, or they can, you know, however they want to do it. I mean, you know.
I hope the government is listening to us, and I hope you get those fundings.
Add something here.
Yes, please go ahead.
I want to bring up this thing about training professionals because here in India, you know, we have various streams of medicine and various fields of professionals working here. We have occupational therapists, we have psychologists. So this regular training needs a lot of collaboration from a lot of sources, because research happens in different pockets of the world, right? So sharing of knowledge and some sort of way that everybody can be updated is also a challenge, because you know, people who are busy or not living not in the big cities in countries like India, they really don't know what's happening and what developments are happening, even legislature wise, you know, to be inspired from examples around the world. So this effort is solely theirs. So they are supported in some way, like by the government again, for training of professionals, like, you know, to renew a medical license, you have exams every few years. So, but therapists in several parts of the world don't have that. So they have to make efforts all on their own and arrange for finances all on their own. So if there is a collaboration, you know, for everyone, I hope it happens sometime, that would really benefit everybody.
Absolutely. And Krishna, even before you said that, we have been talking about it, how we can help individuals in different countries, train them, or, provide those resources and that awareness and, few of those things, how we can transfer it there. We have been talking, and I think we spoke about it to Michael, and we have spoken at length about it with Footprints for Autism, and hopefully let's see how we can help. Okay, point noted, Krishna. Okay, so are you seeing any, this is very important right now, I feel, due to pandemic, are you seeing any different or additional challenges that families and caregivers of children on autism spectrum are facing, and what can they do during this time? What do you suggest to these families? How can they overcome those? um, I see it has been a lot more difficult for them because already they are in isolation. The little programming, or the little recreational activities that they used to get, or the guided services that they used to get, it has been stopped. And the support that was given to the caregivers, that also has been pulled back because of the pandemic. We agree that it is not safe for them as well, but what are other challenges, and what do you suggest to these families? Krishna, you want to go first?
Okay, like you pointed out, there's a change in schedule, and I think online learning is a big challenge now. Even therapy
Absolutely.
is partly done online, so this disconnect gets amplified. So the struggle with emotional regulation, uh, it's like you have this primitive brain and you have this higher center which kind of manages it. So that's like tired now. So we're all being this place where our basic needs are getting compromised. So the frustration and the sleep, getting disorganized.
Yeah.
And because of this, the sensory challenges become more. So I think, while that is there, it again falls on the family now to the one good thing that's happening now is that we all are spending time indoors as a family, with having to look at our children and look at our own issues. uh, it's all becoming very clear now. The pandemic is things that we push off for thinking for later, it's sort of become clear. So again, the only resource that we start for is for us to look at our children now and really understand. I mean, the flip side is we get to really look at some things we miss in the busy life. But yes, it's challenging because of all the other reasons I said.
Thanks, Krishna. I know it's tough on you and your daughter, but we hope it ends soon and you can get back to those programs. Michael, what do you want to say? No, you muted yourself. Okay, we are playing tag with the mute now.
I think I can only echo what Krishna was saying, and
Yeah.
I give him a lot of respect for doing it as a parent. And I can only echo her, because what we're seeing, though, in our own experience is that, many children on the spectrum are really routine dependent, and with the lockdowns and closures, all those routines got upended, and parents suddenly found themselves becoming not even over parents, but the therapists, counselors, teachers, all that 24/7 without respite. It was, and in Autism Ontario, what we did, we rose our we attempted to get kits out to them we pivoted in terms of what we did as an organization. Our service navigators who are responsible for reaching out to families in each chapter area got take home kits to them. We helped them out that way. My advice is to reach out to your local organization, to wherever you are. I mean, it might be with Footprints, it might be with Autism Ontario. outside the province, it might be some other organization. To reach out to them. There's only strength in numbers during this time, and we can help each other for sure in this time. And definitely don't be afraid to look around online for resources. We do have online a list of activities. We put that up fairly early on in things that still gets many, many, many visits from around the world. So yeah, it's the only thing. So it's, that's all I think much. I can't really echo too much what Krishna, I think you said a lot of it. So
yeah, I know. Thanks, Michael. Michele, what do you want to say?
I would have to say, like, as a parent alone, that to parents out there who are struggling because of the pandemic, like, it's okay not to feel okay.
Yeah.
Take care of your mental health. In a sense where nothing's going to be perfect, you know what I mean? And, a lot of the children, they feed off the schedules, like you guys mentioned. And you know what, if they react because of certain things, like, it's not your fault. And if you need a moment to yourself to cry, to scream, to let go of all that emotion, like, it's okay to let it go. There's more than one parent that's going through the same thing. We're all in this together. And that at the end of the day, your child is healthy, your child's alive, and they're going to live another day. So, like, we do have a lot of children and a lot of parents that we still keep in contact with. When the pandemic first hit last March, we as a staff had to come together and find ways to still connect with our parents because we know how hard it is. So at the beginning, it was through newsletters, through emails, through phone calls, just saying, like, how are you? Like, how are you guys doing? Because we're not just an organization that serves these families once a week. Like, we're still family, right? And we don't want to let go of them because we're not seeing them. We want to make sure that they know that we're still here. So throughout the year, we still kept in contact with them. Fortunately, with Footprints, it's considered an essential service. So we're still open on Saturdays, which is great. And our parents were thrilled. So when we're reaching out to our families to let them know, hey, like, we're opening up in April, would you like a spot? And the response, oh my God, the response. They're like, yes, we need a break. And that's what we serve our families for, is for them to have that break. We mentioned before that a lot of them juggle a lot of roles, like whether it's another sibling or other responsibilities. So Footprints provides that respite for 4 or 5 hours for that parent to just breathe, right? Don't worry, we got this. Go do what you have to do, and then we'll take care of your child. So with COVID, like, I really wish I could take the stress from our parents, but at the end of the day, we have to realize that, we're all this together. Nothing's perfect. And, just try to take care of your mental health, because if you are not strong enough for your child, like, who's going to be there for them? So please take care of yourself as a parent so you can be strong enough to take care of your child as well.
Yeah, very well said, Michele. A lot of times we forget the caregivers and we say, you have to be strong, you have to be strong. And you put it the right way. It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Right? For once, you can ask for help, ask your close family who are in the bubble to take care of them for a day, and you take off for a day, and completely get your energies together and bounce back. That's all you need. Just one day or 1 hour, or just go relax, watch a movie, watch something, and take that time off for yourself. And it's fine. You're not a bad parent. You're not being mean. You're not being selfish. You need that time for yourself. Very well said. Thanks for putting it out there. I hope they're listening. Okay, we come to the last section now. We have spoken at length about what are the challenges, how to help them, and all the other things. We have two organizations here, Autism Ontario and Footprints for Autism. They have a lot of programs and services. We would like to know what they are. Michael, you can start with this. What are the programs and services that Autism Ontario has, and how do they assist persons with autism and their families?
Sure. See, I'm off mute this time. So
very good.
Well, Autism Ontario has 25 chapters across Ontario. We're closing, we're 48 years old. We were started by a group of parent volunteers in a basement 48 years ago, just wanting to know, asking many of the questions many parents still ask today. In fact, each chapter is all chapters are largely staffed by volunteers, but they also have a service navigator whose job it is to help parents access the Ontario Autism Program and other programs out there. We provide a number of services for children, youth, and adults. And we have also provide French language services as well. We're also trying to expand ourselves into serving other communities as well in Ontario.
Wonderful.
We also host, if you go to our website, we also have a number of webinars on a number of different subjects, a number of different languages. So please, I invite everybody to go to our website, and these are obviously open to everybody from around the world. They can go to our website, find them, and if they find them of use, perfect. There are a lot of them are educational. A lot of them, for example, are how to help their child develop printing skills. Mm-hmm. We also manage the Community Connect portal, which provides a service listing of providers and services of different autism providers and services.
Yeah, that is awesome. You have a lot of programs, you have a lot of webinars. Please go, please watch it and learn more about it. And like you said, Michael, it started with volunteers in the basement. The best things start with humble beginnings. Believe me.
Yes.
So I'm very happy to hear you have how many, 28 chapters?
25 chapters.
25 chapters.
They're all the way from Thunder Bay to Ottawa, over the province. They're very invigorated, very healthy, very, my job is part of the communications side is to, I also edit the magazine. We have a quarterly magazine that goes out to our membership. Mm-hmm. So we also do a lot of stuff. We're interested so we have ongoing interests like that too, and and also and I think the important thing is that we're evolving, in our realization, and that autism, it goes across different groups, different peoples, there's no one face of autism.
Yes.
And that's the important thing of it. What there was back in the day, I think that the face of autism was prominently white and predominantly male. Well, that's not so, obviously, and and this is something that it's this is something that we're working on, reaching out to, developing and evolving. So thank you very much.
No, I agree with that. That is why I keep saying there isn't an identifiable characteristic or a facial or a physical characteristic for autism. And you echoed it again. So Michele, coming to you, what are the programs and services that Footprints has, and how do they assist persons with autism and their families?
So I mentioned before that back in 2004, we did take a survey around the community to see who would actually benefit from a Saturday program respite. Mm-hmm. The challenge that I did mention was that a lot of families are just like, you know what, no, I don't think I need it. But there were enough for us to start a program on Saturdays, which we did open in June 2004, which was amazing. So since then, our programs do run on Saturdays from 2 shifts, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. that supports families that come in. They're able to drop off their child, and they're partnered with a volunteer who's been trained. It's like a one-on-one peer mentorship type relationship during that shift. And what's amazing is that they're in the lead. So they ask what they want to do. We don't dictate to them as to what we should be doing. So some of them would come in and want to do arts and crafts. Some of them want to come in and watch a movie. Some of them want in and draw some of their beautiful art that they want to show us. And what develops from that is a friendship that they develop with the volunteer. And it's an amazing program. It runs every Saturdays. We do have 2 locations, one located in Whitby and one located in Pickering. In the last few years, we do have a team program, which started out with a pilot project, but now has developed to an actual permanent project on Mondays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Prior to COVID, it would have taken place at the Whitby Library, but due to COVID, it has now been brought online. And again, that program is amazing because the teens get together and they're able to do what they want to do, right? So it could be board games, it could be movies. Cheyenne, our wonderful program consultant, like she was sometimes bringing guest speakers when it comes to life skills, right? Because we mentioned before how some of them don't get taught that after a certain age. So she would bring people coming in to teach them life skills or, you know, a certain occupation that they might be interested in. So that's been a really amazing program that's still developing, and I think it's gonna like take off really well. So our Saturday programs with our volunteer services, so in turn, a lot of volunteers are able to come in and experience working with children who are autism. So a lot of them who are in university are unable to do placements, right? So there are starting to be psychologists or go in the medical field, but they don't have any placement or experience working with children with autism, right? So they're able to actually gain experience and education, which we mentioned before that's lacking, that they could carry on to whatever profession they do go into. So they know the knowledge of how to deal with children or adults or teens who have been diagnosed with autism.
Yeah, absolutely. So by volunteering, they're learning an extra skill and they're learning to be better at it. So I feel it's a win-win for everyone. I feel next time I will volunteer for it too.
What's amazing about our volunteer services is that, like, what I find is just being, like, you know, getting relationships with the volunteers is that when I ask them, like, why, you know, why footprints? Like, why do you want to volunteer for us? And a large of that, like a lot of them would say, is because I have a family member that's been diagnosed with them, right? So a lot of them gain that experience from either as a cousin or a brother, or, you know, and they want to find a way to get involved, which I think it's like, it's amazing. And, you know, I always thank them for taking their time to want to volunteer with us on Saturdays. So just shout out to our volunteers. April is Volunteer Appreciation Month. So I just want to give a shout out to our Footprints volunteers, because without them, our services and like our programs wouldn't run. So I am always thankful for them, and, you know, thankful for all that they do for our programs.
Yeah, even we want to tell you thank you from on behalf of all of us sitting here. So thank you and keep up the good work. Okay, so next, Krishna. So this one is for you, the question. You don't have programs and services, but do you believe that countries like India and other international countries are doing enough? You've already said they're not doing enough when it comes to education or awareness to the general public, but what do you think needs to be done? How can you change that? Now you are muted.
Yes, I was listening. You know, there are stories of hope and there are stories of good practice in my country as well. But unfortunately, because of, you said, culture and ideas which are very different, and you know, the thing about India is we are so diverse, so it becomes difficult to coordinate a program like you guys have done. We have a forum called Action for Autism in India, and they are constantly working with the government to bring about legislation. But yes, it's a fight solely by families who are experiencing autism. It's not yet a community movement. It's, you know, in a country where 10 million people could have autism, there are not 10 million people who can tell you what autism really is. Yeah. So the awareness is the first step. And of course, we have, you know, we have programs here like the relationship development intervention is kind of the safe zone we are adapting to now, where we can just help parents and families, because everything else is uncertain. We don't have a system exactly in place now. So we're just working at supporting families and parents. I am looking at it in this way. Okay, we start with here, building the child's potential, making the child or the individual feel better and feel capable. And then we try to bridge all the things that are, you know, not helping that person, like the stigma, the reservation, and, you know, the opportunities. So we try to eliminate that. And then we are working at policies, you know, making jobs accessible, making offices accessible, making communication accessible if they are non-verbal and things like that. But I think the opposite should happen. Once there is an awareness and people are talking about autism like it's something which is very real, which is really meaningful, then it gives courage to these organizations to let go of these restrictions, because for now it's becoming very hard for people to believe in those who have autism. To believe that they are capable of so much is the first obstacle. So we are just pushing the kids and the adults to become capable. And the family also feels this pressure to make them capable. They are like, everyone wants to bring out the unique ability in their children so that they just make it through this world. I mean, that kind of pressure should not happen. I mean, you're born to enjoy the world as you are. And the moment I feel that, organizations like the work you guys do, when people start volunteering, when people start, enjoying the company of those who have autism, then it becomes easy for all these programs to get, sort of this vibe of acceptance. And I think it really should start from the typical people. And this need for those on the autism spectrum to prove themselves, and parents to fight for them every time, should change. And the educational system and the government should change that first, because those who are on the spectrum are capable of ideas, are capable of contributing, irrespective of how they look. So I think that's where everything should begin. And we can't make this, I mean, like he said, one person on the spectrum, it's one person on the spectrum. So they just have needs that have to be set in place in different areas. It's not like you have to just put them all into one special ed program. There's a whole group of us. So it's just that when everyone becomes aware and everyone starts doing their own creative and impactful skills with those who have autism, then everything becomes more relaxed.
I completely agree, Krishna, and coming from the same country as you are, India, I will echo it, saying that it has to be spoken in the social circles. It has to be spoken in the educational institutions, in schools, in colleges, in the parliament itself. They have to talk about these issues. They have to know, the people sitting on those chairs have to know what autism is in order to understand what people are asking funding for, or what legislation changes they're asking for. So I would say, if you go to the government and ask how many of them know, it's the lack of awareness again. So making them aware, talking in the social circles, and again debating on these issues, bringing it to the forefront, I think that is going to lead you to where you want to go. There are a lot of other things in countries, in the developing countries, I would say, which are like just pushed under the rug, which shouldn't be done. It should be spoken about. You should be vocal about it. And I feel mental health has reached a stage where everybody talks about it. They're not stigmatized anymore of saying that they have anxiety or depression, or they're sad about something, or they're not feeling okay. We have reached, at least we are talking about it now. So I feel it is going to happen. Just don't let it go. Don't stop fighting for it. Anybody wants to add anything else, please go ahead. This is your time. Michael, last words?
I think this has been a really worthwhile session, and Ashia, I'm very grateful to be invited from you and Nehru. I think though that we can only work to help celebrate people with autism, their families, their caregivers, to work towards supporting them, to making sure they succeed in their lives the way they want, and to get understanding and acceptance by more events like these and more of them. So
Yes.
thank you very much for inviting me. And it has been a pleasure.
Thanks for coming, Michael. Michele? What do
Yeah,
you
I thank you guys so much for including our organization in this panel. I think it's amazing that we're able to connect on a different spectrum, whether it's from an organization standpoint or from a parent standpoint. So this was very beautiful, and I'm very happy I was part of this. And as well, like I want to also thank like any families I came across that educated me over the years, the 9-10 years, because to be honest, like all the families I've met and the kids I met and like the experience I met, it's been beautiful and it's been amazing. And it's been an amazing journey just being with Footprints and like having and developing a relationship with the families, and you know, being like for them to even trust us with their child. And I'm so appreciative of that. And like I'm just hoping in the next few years like we will come back as a panel again, and you know what, and talk about, hey, there's been change, you know, like
I know.
hey,
Yeah.
change, that change. So I'm putting it out there that in the next 5 years we'll come back together and like there would be change, whether it's from the government level or from, you know, worldwide level support, or, you know, like even a learning opportunity. I'm just hoping next 5 years to come back together and things have changed. So hope here's to change, and here's to, you know, advocating for our families and advocating for anyone that's been touched by this. I'm hoping anyone that's watching this as well has learned something, and that like it's gonna change. Things will change, and I'm positive for that.
Yes, and we are hopeful, always hopeful. Krishna, what do you want to say?
Oh, thank you very much for having me here. It was nice to share what I think in my mind all day.
Oh, yes. Yes, we agree with you completely. I just want to add to what Michael said. We have to help out more, and we have to reach out to the families as neighbors, as somebody, as people in the community. If we can support them, that is a lot of help to the families and the caregivers as well. So be sensitive, compassionate, empathetic, and take care of each other. Today they might need you, but tomorrow you might need them too. So that is what I want to say. And for my closing, I want to say developing functional and social communication skills is very important for everyone, every human being. To form relationship, share ourselves with others, we need a way to communicate, to think, plan, and learn to monitor our own behavior. We need language to negotiate, share our thoughts, advocate for ourselves, and engage in a meaningful work. We need to communicate. So communicate more, everyone, and help others communicate too. The social image of autism has improved dramatically since the creation of groups such as Autism Ontario and Footprints for Autism and many others. These groups are constantly working to support and provide resources for persons with ASD and caregivers. And they also strive for an increase in the overall quality of their life. Support services such as these have also played an important role in educating the general public on the intricacies of autism, and therefore in improving the general image of autism itself. I want to say, with misrepresentation and confusion regarding autism, one may easily understand the reasons behind the social perception leading to stigmatization. However, a movement towards a more positive view is both tangible and promising. So let's be hopeful and let's strive for that. Thank you so much, everyone. It was wonderful sharing the screen space with you, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I look forward to more of these with you.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Yes,
Thank you.
and everybody else, have a wonderful good evening. Have a good evening, and we will see you again on Tuesday, which is our business promotion for Think and Grow Rich movie. Take care. Bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.